a solid, good stat line every single week.
Well, there's been, 2 quarterbacks in the nation? That's probably more than him. So if he isn't putting up that many numbers, I guess then you wouldn't consider anybody putting up that many numbers.
I'm just saying he's not throwing for 500 yards a game, but he's thrown for 330. I mean, he's doing it. He's doing a great job every single game. Can you talk about his consistency and what he's bringing this year?
I think it helps to have 10 guys around you that are extremely consistent too. You know, quarterback's a dependent position. Obviously, he's playing extremely well, but you know, that's like when things aren't going good and you're inconsistent. A lot of times it has something to do with everything, not just one thing. And so I think we have 11 guys out there that are performing pretty consistent, and so it shows individually at times at certain positions, but as a whole it also shows, which is good.
Is there one thing he's doing that's setting himself apart, or one thing he's doing head and shoulders better than he was doing last year?
I just think he's making good decisions. You know, I mean, everything we do at the quarterback position is about where you're putting the ball in play at. A lot of it's run game, you know, a lot of it's run game called, and he'll throw it on the perimeter. But just seeing leverage, you know, and you got to see it quickly because we're lining up and it's not always a settled box. And so I just think that his overall knowledge of what we want him to do and just seeing leverage and putting the ball in play is good. I mean, and that's why his completion percentage is up. You know, I mean, he's accurate with the ball anyway. But, you know, his pocket presence and just the way he goes about getting the ball out on time and stuff is just improved.
With the running back room, I mean, did you think with that many kind of egos and stuff that it would work out as well as it has? Whenever somebody else has gone in, it's always kind of worked out for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you're a backup or whatever, there's always a sense of, you know, I want an opportunity, and that gets frustrating at times. And I think you gotta give Jaywan credit for keeping that room in check. You know, I mean, those guys are eager. And I haven't seen any attitude issues out of them. And when they get their opportunity in the game, they take advantage of it. And that's how you get more opportunities, you know. I mean, that was obviously been the case all through the course of the season. You've seen them, some of them go in the fourth quarter and, you know, make 2 or 3 plays, and the next week they're playing 15, 20 reps instead of 5 or so, you know. So, I mean, in this game, especially when there's competition, is always about opportunities. You know, all we can give is opportunities, and all we can do is give opportunities based off what we see. And so we're going to play the best players. But then when you get your opportunity, if you go out there and perform, obviously we're going to play you more. And so I think the attitude has been the key, really. That whole room stayed extremely confident and patient. You know, it's just hard. It's hard to wait and not get tired by waiting.
Talk about opportunities there. Dana said 2 weeks ago he thought Cody had his best game until this past week when he thought Cody had his best game. Can you talk about him, what he's been able to do, and what his versatility allows you to do with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in the past, Cody hasn't met the physical part of the game the way we wanted to. I don't think that's the case this year. I don't think that's the case for the last 2 games in particular. And I do agree with him. I thought 2 games ago, I thought Cody played exceptional. I thought this week was a big challenge for him because he got manhandled last year in that game in Waco. He knew it, you know. They filmed the game, so we watched it again. And so I thought he met the challenge, you know, head on. I thought he played exceptional against a really good player. So, yeah, I do believe his consistency has, and him and Eli both have played extremely well, which allows us to get in those bigger sets and run the football a little more effectively.
At a certain point, you saw that this season. I don't want to call it the evolution of the offense, but the further development in the run game.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think that, you know, with the addition of Coach Crook back there, you know, and what he brings, we became a little more physical, a little more come right at you type offense. I mean, we've incorporated a little more tight ends and fullbacks to take care of edges, because that's basically what defenses are doing today is they're mucking up the edges, you know, and making you know, getting people off the edge to make plays. So you either got to do one or 2 things. You either got to go lighter or go heavier, you know. And I think we've done a good job of doing both and mixing up both. You know, there's times we're going to go light, go empty at times, and there's times we need to get heavy and get a couple yards, just like at the end of the Baylor game. You know, when they know you're going to run it, you know you're going to run it, and you're able to get 2 first downs to run out the clock, that's when it pays off probably the biggest, in my opinion.
Early in your career and working with this offense,
It's bad.
would you have had that same mentality, or would you thought, let's just throw it for 5 yards and see what happens?
I'd throw it for 5 yards. I mean, yeah. I mean, there was times I can remember specific games where we got beat because we couldn't run out the clock. You know, you get the ball back and you run it a couple of times, and then you're 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, and you're thinking, well, I can run it again, and they're gonna get the ball back, or I can try to throw it and get the first down. Well, there's always chances with that too. And so being able to grind the clock out at the end of the game is just a byproduct of of what we're doing offensively, what we're doing up front, and it allows us to to not have so much anxiety at the end of games when we need to run 4 minutes off the clock or 3 minutes off the clock. We feel like we can get in those heavier sets and go forward and get 3 or 4 yards.
You don't know until you do it in a game, but when did you see it in a practice where you thought this could work at this level and work consistently enough to use in a game, in a key situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do it so much. It's not. I think the problem with people is when they try to do that and they never work on it. And that's probably been our biggest issues in the past is we've had those type sets and whatever, but we didn't necessarily focus on working on it as much as we do now. I mean, a lot of our focus is on being physical, and the only way you're physical and the only way you can run the ball is to work on it. It's the same way throwing the football, but where's the balance at? I mean, you got to work on them both equally enough to get good at them. And so, I mean, I think the key is to keep it simple. Keep it simple and then do things that you're good at and that you've been working on. And so, it helped us then, no doubt. But I do think that we saw it, for the whole camp starting out. I mean, we made an emphasis day one to be physical. And so I think it helped.
Dana talked about how what he's seeing out of Oklahoma State's offense is the remnants of what he built there, and obviously that's an offense that you guys were working hand in hand creating.
Yeah.
So what do you see out of Oklahoma State? How familiar is, I know you don't focus on their offense, but how familiar is what you've seen out of them to what you're comfortable and what you know?
I haven't watched them a lot, to be honest with you, on that side of the ball, but I do think that there's a lot of offenses across the Big 12 that are similar, And so, I mean, it's just a byproduct of what Dana has done for a long time and going back to Texas Tech days and whatever. And I mean, obviously, he was at Oklahoma State for a little while, so I mean, a lot of the base stuff is probably still the same now. And so, I mean, it's a lot of inbred going on in the Big 12, really.
On the flip side, can you speak to their defense and what you've noted so far?
Well, I mean, I think that if you look at any defense, when you have back-end guys that are extremely good, then it allows you to be aggressive like they were at times last year, like they've been at times this year. And so I do think that they're getting some people healthy in the back end that they haven't had that's going to allow them to be extremely aggressive. I would expect them to be aggressive. I would expect them to I mean, they've lost 2 games against 2 pretty good teams. They're pretty similar to us. They got beat by Florida State and TCU. I mean, that's 2 pretty good teams.
Obviously, Quint's having a fantastic